Hello and welcome. My name is Allison Tombros Korman, and I serve as the Senior Director of Culture of Respect at NASPA. Culture of Respect is NASPA's signature initiative to help higher education address sexual violence in educational institutions.
My name is Jennifer Henkle. I serve as the Program Manager for the Culture of Respect Collective. The Collective is a 2-year program that brings together institutions of higher education who are dedicated to ending campus sexual violence and guides them through a rigorous process of self-assessment and targeted organizational change. This video, Sexual Violence Prevention in the Virtual Space, is one in a series of videos produced by NASPA's Health, Safety, and Wellbeing team to support student affairs professionals as their work transitions to virtual or remote work amidst the coronavirus pandemic. If you have not done so already, we encourage you to take a look at the other videos in the series, which focus on strategically using evidence-based programs online, the work of campus professionals online, and virtual peer education. We hope you find all of the videos in the series useful. This video is intended to help higher education prevention professionals think through how their work is impacted by the events of COVID-19, including what prevention work can be completed online and what the impacts of that online work might be, as well as implications for the future. Later in this video, we will walk through a series of prompting questions to help get at many of these issues.
Before we jump into those questions, however, we'd like to take a moment to recognize the importance of the work that you are doing. Rightfully so, responding to the coronavirus pandemic has utilized a tremendous amount of resources, including the time and energy usually devoted to addressing students' baseline needs, including access to housing, food, medical services, and mental health services. Amidst this pandemic, those basic needs do not disappear. And unfortunately, even with everything else transpiring, violence is still occurring. And when we resume our normal routines in the future, the work of preventing sexual violence and fostering a culture of respect will still be as essential as ever. To that end, prevention work doesn't and shouldn't stop during this critical time. Another important point we'd like to recognize. As we film this video, April is upon us. For many of you, April's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, or SAM, is a cornerstone of your prevention education efforts, a month chock full of in-person events and activities to raise awareness about sexual violence and engage in prevention education. Obviously, this year's SAM is going to look significantly different from those in the past due to the transition of many institutions to a virtual space, social distancing, and more. There are many resources available to help you think through transitioning your SAM activities to an online space. We encourage you to check out the National Sexual Violence Resource Center's SAM page and consider their suggestions for virtual engagement, including the 30 Days of SAM Instagram Challenge, sharing a teal selfie, and more. You can find these ideas and more at the link shared in the description below this video.
With all that said, we'd like to come back to the critical question at hand. What does sexual violence prevention mean in a virtual space? We anticipate the answer to that question will look different for each of you, depending on your institution, the makeup of your student body, the resources available to you, and much more. So there's no one right answer to that question. However, we hope that the questions that we share with you now will help to bring that answer into focus. To get us started, let's think about what are our prevention goals for the remainder of the academic year? How will prevention work stay the same in this environment? How does it have to change? Ideally, before your academic year started, you crafted a comprehensive prevention plan for the year. This likely included the programs you plan to administer, the groups, including faculty, staff, and students that you hope to reach, and what you hope to accomplish. This likely included increasing knowledge around sexual violence, perhaps challenging rape myths, teaching bystander intervention skills, or understanding the intersections of violence and marginalized identities, and changing behaviors. Hopefully, this plan also included a robust assessment component so you could understand if these efforts were making an impact. Now seems like a good time to revisit that plan and ask yourself some tough questions. Which of those programs can continue in a virtual space? Which goals in your plan still apply, and which may require modifying or eliminating altogether? We are in an unprecedented time, and figuring out what is to come with this and other institutional plans remains to be seen. But now feels like an important time to revisit your plan and assess what must change and what might stay the same.
We're also asking, how will I assess prevention efforts this year? Along with your prevention plan, now is also a good time to examine your assessment plan. Ideally, you are striving to assess the impact of all the programming you do. But how will the changes to your programming impact your evaluation efforts? Will you need to utilize new or different strategies to assess your programs? How will hosting programs online impact your ability to collect data from participants?
It might also be helpful to ask yourself, what platforms or channels have I never considered before? Which are outside of my comfort zone but worth trying? Doing what you know is comfortable. If a program worked last year, it can feel like an easy decision to replicate it again this year. But doing the same programming you've done in the past may not be an option this year, and you may be forced out of your usual comfort zone. So now feels like a good opportunity to ask yourself, what haven't we tried yet? What might our students respond to best? This could be the year you try Instagram TV or TikTok, creating a podcast, or something else totally outside of your usual wheelhouse. Just remember to engage your students in this process. As ever, they are some of your best resources when it comes to thinking through what might really make an impact. But with everything moving towards digital, this may be a good push to try technology you've not embraced before.
Another question to consider: to which groups of students are our prevention efforts typically catered? How must that change in this environment, and how do we make those changes? While this question is always an important one, moving towards online prevention might make you rethink it. Previously, you may have done in-person prevention programs with members of fraternity and sorority life, or certain residence halls on campus, or teams. How might you reach these same students but without being able to meet them in person? We also know that programming is often done with traditionally aged students in mind. How might you utilize new channels or strategies to reach pockets of students you haven't been able to in the past? Consider also whether there are new strategies for promoting attendance and engagement in your efforts, such as offering extra credit opportunities for students who take part.
Who currently has the bandwidth to collaborate with me on these efforts right now? How might we collaborate in the usual or new ways? Right now, there may be stakeholders on campus who are massively overwhelmed as folks scramble to figure out issues like moving classes online or the future of commencement. But there may be other groups of colleagues whose portfolios look very different without students, faculty, and staff on campus. Are staff from the student union available for collaboration? Are there RAs or RDs still on campus who might be interested in sharing their perspective on the questions students have about consent and healthy relationships? Consider who outside the usual suspects might make a good collaborator to help you get your prevention programming into the right hands and to keep your efforts moving.
What funds outside the usual budget line items might be available to you now that were not previously available? Much like your prevention plan, now might also be a good time to revisit your prevention budget. If you had dollars allocated for pizza and snacks at an in-person event, can those funds be channeled into one of those new strategies or platforms you're exploring? We are hearing from our colleagues that many institutions have been rediscovering and repurposing gift funds to their office or department for new uses in supporting student basic needs. It's time to get creative.
Let's also think about what online prevention programs exist that you haven't previously considered. Many institutions utilize online prevention education programs to meet their prevention education requirements for incoming students. But now might be a good time to consider new programs to supplement or serve as boosters for those programs. We at the Culture of Respect have compiled a prevention programming matrix, a curated list of theory-driven and evidence-based sexual violence prevention programs that are available in the field. The matrix provides detailed information about each of the programs listed, and programs can be filtered by the format, whether online or in person, as well as by the audience, undergrad, graduate students, or faculty and staff. While you're considering new programs to utilize with your students, you might also consider if this remote environment offers an opportunity to educate faculty and staff in ways you haven't previously been able to do so.
To that end, consider this question: how can I use this time with stakeholders working remotely to get them up to speed on the importance of this work? This new remote environment that so many of us are working in opens up the opportunity for online professional development for many faculty and staff. Now might be a great time to educate stakeholders about the work that you do and how they can be active participants in the institution's efforts to address sexual violence. Culture of Respect recently launched Foundations, an online course that prepares professionals with the tools they need to be influential allies in campus sexual violence prevention and response. The 6-module course is taught by NASPA staff with expertise in social work, student affairs, public health, peer education, assessment, and violence prevention, and serves as a great follow-up to the introductory Title IX and Clery Act training provided by your institution. If you're interested in bringing Foundations to a large group on your campus, please contact Culture of Respect.
Let's also think about the question of how are we reaching students, not just with prevention, but with ongoing support? As we said earlier, continuing prevention work is essential right now, but we should also consider how our institutions are supporting survivors of sexual violence in this challenging time. Recent events do not change the fact that someone experienced sexual violence, and in fact, these recent events may compound the stress and trauma that a survivor is experiencing. How can you, in your prevention role, support those who are working to support survivors? Are there ways in which you can safely lend them your time, resources, or support?
And finally, how will this permanently change our prevention efforts in the future? What might we learn from this experience that will shape the way we do prevention moving forward? Right now, we are all very much in the thick of this pandemic and struggling to figure out how best to move forward. But we will get through it and find our new normal. And when we do, we will undoubtedly have learned a lot about ourselves, our students, our institution, and more. We encourage you to capture, even in small ways, what you learn over the coming months. What were you and your colleagues capable of that you hadn't realized before? What worked? What surprised you? What can you take away from this experience to help improve prevention at your institution moving forward? We know we've thrown a lot of questions your way, and again, we want to stress, there is no right answer to any of these. These are all just questions to help you focus your energy and resources into making your online prevention education as efficacious and impactful as possible. We hope you find these useful.